I'm Terry Newson. I'm a wife, I'm the mother of 7, the grandmother of 5, and I'm the founder of Orphan's Promise. I had a mom who was very, very caring of other people. She knew there were children in my class specifically that I remember who came from very poor families in the country, and she would send in bags of clothes that we were no longer wearing, and she would say to me, give this to the teacher for this child, but don't say anything to the child about it. At the time, I don't think I had the big picture of all of that, but you know, one of the things that it really stirred inside of me was that there were children who didn't have what I had. I had this feeling that I needed to do something that mattered. In 1973, I was Miss America, and that was an amazing door opener. I got to a certain place. I certainly wasn't a star or anything like that, but I got to a place where I realized I was on my way to the top of a mountain that didn't have anything at the top of the mountain. When Andy and I married, we were in our early 30s, and I honestly thought I was never going to have children. Imagine that. So we gave birth to Drew, and then we thought, well, you know, we wanted to adopt. We applied for adoption for a little boy, and it fell through last minute. And so by that time, I was pregnant with Tori. And so we decided we better wait until she's 1, and then we'll try this process again. And so we did that and applied to adopt a little boy from Korea, and JP joined our family just before Tori turned 2. And then a couple of years later, a friend contacted us. A young girl had become pregnant and knew that she wasn't in a position to raise her child and was looking for a family to adopt. Her baby was biracial, and we were super excited about that because we really believed that God created us all to be unique and enjoyed in our uniqueness. My husband used to say that he thought there was a conspiracy in the dining room table business because every table came with 6 chairs, so we felt like we finally met the criteria. We had 6 people at our table. I was working on a show at the Christian Broadcasting Network, and we had a general interest story that the executive producer had booked. It was a friend of hers. She and her husband were going to Ukraine to adopt an older child. And we said, when you get your child, come on back. We'd like to meet her. We'd like to hear how the whole process went. And so when they came back with the little girl, we had our production meeting ahead of the show. And I said to the executive producer, I'm dying to hear what this woman has to say about how this works. I mean, how do you go get an older child? Do they line them up along the wall and you say, I'll take number 15? Or, I mean, how does that work? I just couldn't even imagine such a thing. When they got there, the orphanage director said, I have 3 sisters I'd like you to look at. And they said, 3, we came for 1. And we only have the ability to take 2. So the orphanage director excused herself for a moment and came back and said, well, the oldest sister said she'll stay behind so her younger sisters can have a family. And I'm thinking to myself, what kind of a child does that? I mean, who says, I'll stay behind so my sisters can have a family? The mother heart in me at this point is like totally stunned. And we meet the lady. They didn't take the 2 girls. They said, we came for 1, we're taking 1. So we met the little girl, we met her family. But I couldn't get these 3 kids out of my mind. And so I started to pray that God would send a family to get them. Not my family, a family to go get them. I just got this strange stirring feeling inside of me, and I thought, no, that can't be right. This has to be a hormonal moment. And so I started thinking, God, could it be possible that you're asking us to go get these girls? Well, I had told my husband the story of the 3 girls 2 weeks before. We're driving somewhere, and I said, I have something I need to ask you, and I just need you to not interrupt me till I get to the end of this. So I tell him the whole thing and just said, I think we're supposed to go get these girls. And I look over, and he's just kind of smiling as he's driving, and he said, I knew you were going to ask me that 2 weeks ago when you told me this story. He said to me, you know what, I think we just pursue this. If God is in it, the lights will be green and the doors will open. And so one night we sat down as a family shortly thereafter, and we talked to them about the 3 girls and their need. The room got very quiet when we said, we think we're supposed to go adopt these girls and make them part of our family. You know, none of us understood the challenges that would be a part of this. My daughter cried, and yet, because she and I had very tight relationships, she was the only girl, and so bringing in 3 sisters was going to change her life the most. And yet she said to me at the time, I know that my tears are selfish tears, and so just let me cry and go get them. Well, we were in Ukraine for almost a month, and so every day our routine was we would get up and have breakfast, go to the orphanage, spend the day with the girls. As we got in the van and we were driving away, of course all the kids come to say goodbye to their friends, and they're getting in a car, and I look back and I see all these little noses pressed up against windows. And I know that what they're saying is, when is somebody coming for me? In the process of all of that, I came to understand some statistics. Less than 1% of them were going to get adopted. And you know, you just wind up saying, so what happens to all of those kids? And so we started talking about doing School of Life, and it would be English classes, computer classes, everything from how do I cook my own meals, how do I iron a shirt, how do I save money, and who is God? Who am I, and who is God to me? We just felt like if we could help kids get a handle on life in that way, that we could help them move forward. And so that's what we began to pursue, and we did it in Kiev first, and then we went right down to Verdansk, where our girls are from, and we opened a center there so that their friends who weren't going to be adopted could come to this place before they even aged out on their free time, and then when they aged out could find a place. And it was the beginning of Orphan's Promise.
Over the next 15 years, Orphan's Promise grew to 61 countries, having a daily impact on over 100,000 children. Though the reach of Orphan's Promise has grown, the desire to take each child from surviving to thriving stays the same. These are the stories of the children whose lives are being impacted and the heroes on the ground as the hands of Orphan's Promise.